Oh no, hello, and welcome back to another videos, and today we'll be taking a look at two cards that definitely have giant proportions. Oh yes, and we're going to be taking a look at the matchup of Primeval Titan and Uro of Titans, or Titan of Nature's Wrath. Okay, I got it right. So yeah, this kind of seems unfair, but we're gonna see which one wins in the overall card battle and maybe some lore battle, but I don't really cover lore. I just covered the functionality of the cards and how they work. So that's what I'm going to do. And let's just get started. And first, we're going to explain Primeval Titan. I think this is going to be the one we're going to explain first because I think everyone kind of knows about Uro. Some people actually know about Primeval Titan too, though. But I'll explain Primeval Titan as well. So this is Primeval Titan. And oh boy, he looks pretty mean. He looks pretty nasty. But we'll show how his meanness compares to Uro. So he's 4 green green for a creature giant, and he has trample. And whenever he attacks or enters or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 land cards. Emphasis on 2 land cards, not any land. It could be any land you want. Put them on the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. So yeah, well, why is this card really good? Well, it's really good because it can actually fetch lands you want. It can fetch any land too. But most people play this in actually Primeval Titan decks in Modern, and that's pretty much where the home has been ever since. But this card is very tricky to rate because it has a big um, upness factor to it. What I mean is that you can actually make a lot of decks around Primeval Titan. There are a lot of decks in Modern that actually used Primeval Titan as their main win con. This include Bloom Titan decks, which use Summer Bloom to play a lot of lands and get out Primeval Titan really, really quick. There was also even Scapeshift decks with Primeval Titan called Titan Shift. There was even decks with Primeval Titan trying to cheat it into play, like Through the Breach decks, but mostly Through the Breach would run Primeval Titan. So where does this card just stop being good? It's always good in everything you build around it with ramp or anything around this card. This card can go for days getting built around. And there's a lot of archetypes that use Primeval Titan. But the main success has been Amulet Titan, and that's the main deck that's been popular in Modern. Because of Amulet of Vigor, all the bounce lands and all the other stuff come in untapped. So that's really nice because Primeval Titan, when he searches up a land, they always come in tapped. But if you have Amulet of Vigor, they come in untapped now. Most of their win cons are usually Kessig, Wolfrun, or like Valakut. So yeah, Primeval Titan is just a really good land. Land is a really good creature that can fetch up lands, and he's honestly really solid. And I just like the flavor text. It's when nature calls, run, because they're gonna run for this card. So, like, what makes him so good? Why was he banned in Commander? Well, in Commander, he was banned for one reason and one reason only. No one wanted an archetype of Primeval Titan decks because you can literally build any mono green or anything with green in the color identity of your commander around this card. And it just made it so that everything evolved around the Titan. So they banned it because they didn't want that archetype to flood Commander. Because this card was really good at expanding on other decks, and it can make it's not a problem of like diversity because it was a very diverse card to build around. The problem was of too much of the same diversity. And that's a little bit tricky to explain there, but what I'm saying is like you can build anything around this card and it will work very efficiently. So the downside of this is that it's really expensive to get out. But if you have ramp and you have all that access to all those really powerful lands, you could do a lot of work with this, like Azusa Lost but Seeking and other cards that fetch up lands on the battlefield. So yeah, Primeval Titan is just one of those cards that you can just basically build around any way you want, And it's just kind of like a commander, and I don't know why it's not legendary. I mean, when are you gonna see four primeval titans in the forest? I mean, I know I won't. What is this world like? Freaking, is it like apocalypse world? Like it's like what? Okay. But anyways, yeah, that's primeval titan main home. Primeval titan decks. They'll always be popular. They'll always be successful. And yeah, let's move on to the success with the another success. And we're going to move on to, I think, what everyone knows, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. So yeah, everyone knows this is a one blue, green blue legendary creature, Elder Giant. So this one is a little bit older than our friend Primeval Titan. But let's see what he has to offer. So when he enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice it unless it escaped. So that's kind of the downside of it. Whenever enters the battlefield or attacks, so the same as Primeval Titan, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And this one also says the same as any land. And then you can pay its escape cost to cast it, and it doesn't get sacrificed. So why is this card really good? Well, this card was really good in Standard because basically there was no problem of playing this card because it basically replaced itself and more. The things this card did made it so that decks had to basically rely on graveyard clearing. And that wasn't really fun when most of the meta wasn't about the graveyard. Well, besides cycling, of course. So people didn't really want to play a lot of graveyard hate. And what made this creature really tricky is that it basically always replaced itself because it always had that enter the battlefield ability. So a lot of people just didn't even care about running basically any graveyard clearing. They just cared about killing Uro really early so they can't cast it from their graveyard. The problem with this mentality is it actually made an archetype in Modern when this got banned in Standard. And when this got banned in Standard, it was played in Uro Piles decks in Modern. And what this evolved around is basically trying to get Uro out of the graveyard as quickly as possible. And I actually did, there wasn't really a lot of information on why it was called Uro Piles, but I suspect that it's because of the piling up in your graveyard. And what people would actually do in desperate situations, and I've seen this from Pleasant Kenobi, is actually they would rather lightning bolt themselves to get an Uro out of their graveyard. They would take a spell to the face just to play Uro. And that's how good Uro was, is that any deck can basically just sacrifice something in return in order to get Uro out of the graveyard. And this made decks very, very strange in a way. And in Standard, it was kind of the same way, because there was no risk involved for you playing spells on yourself even. And even if this got discarded by your opponent, if your opponent decided, hey, you know what, I'm just going to discard this one card, then you really don't have a downside because you can always cast it from the graveyard. And it was just a win-win in that situation. So this card was really hard to interact with, and that's why it got banned in Standard. Now it's still in Modern to this day. Now do you think to yourself, well, it's only in Modern. It's pretty much going to be a staple there, so what? I mean, it's not affecting any other formats. Well, you would be dead wrong, because it actually did affect other formats. And this is evidently clear in Legacy and Vintage decks that run Sultai midrange, and some decks run Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath. And the reason they run it is because of great engines like Leovold and other things like that. It's just amazing to have this card because it will always replace itself in the long run, and you never got a downside to it. So running Uro was basically just running 2 cards for you for free because you had the draw card and you had to put a land onto the battlefield, which replaced a lot of it didn't gum up your hand as much because you could if you have a land, you're like, what am I gonna do with this land? Like, I don't want to really play it, but you'd be like, oh well, now you can play it because you get a benefit off of it. Uro's basically saying, listen, I have a deal for you. Gonna enter the battlefield. Okay, I'm gonna gain you 3 life. That's the first deal I'm making. We're gonna draw a card for you. You see? Really good deal. And then we're gonna put that land card you hate, but we drew you a card, so it kind of replaced itself. So yeah. Even if I get sacrificed, you still have me in the graveyard for a later deal. What do you say, Sonny? Is that a good deal for you? It's like, hell yeah, it's a good deal. Just sign me up, man. This is a really good deal. So yeah, and Uro was basically played in decks revolving around Uro. It's the same in Legacy and Vintage. Uro decks were just basically good. So now let's compare the two together in a fight. So, Primeval Titan versus Uro Titan Nature's Wrath. The battle is intense. The lands on the playing field are very distraught and very like overgrown and stuff. But I think in the long run, when it just comes to them duking it out with their lands, putting down freaking Field of the Deads everywhere, I think Uro of Titan Nature's Wrath would win. And even lore-wise, it would win too. Like, not because, well, here's the similarities to them. They're both giants, they're both 6/6s, and they both kind of just come out with the same mana. Because usually Uro Titan Nature's Wrath comes out maybe turn 5 or 6. Sometimes turn 5 if you're lucky, but turn 6 usually. So they kind of share the same mana cost. And also, they do virtually the same thing. I mean, one searches their library and one replaces itself. But I think overall, people want that commodity of replacing itself instead of searching the library, because that could just be kind of risky sometimes. You never know when there's going to be an Ashiok in your way and stuff. And that also hates on graveyards, lol. And also the interactivity between the cards. Primeval Titan doesn't necessarily replace itself because it can only get lands out of your deck. And yeah, it could be any land, but it's not like anything special, you know? I mean, unless they're running Field of the Dead, which those decks run, but even then, I rest my case. I think Uro Titan Nature's Wrath is way better because it actually replaces itself, unlike Primeval Titan. Because it gives you a card other than a land. And if there's a land in your hand, you happen to draw it too, you can just put it on the battlefield. So it's kind of like a win-win. And I think people underestimate Uro in that regard. And yes, Primeval Titan has trample, but come on, Uro is just unkillable. The most a Primeval Titan deck can do is get out Primeval Titan, and then it's a kill on sight creature, so they'll just blow it up. And you barely got any answers. What Primeval Titan decks have done, though, is they have Tolaria West and Pact of Negation. But you're still giving up a counterspell in order to protect your Primeval Titan, and some mana, too. And I think Uro Titan Nature's Wrath is hard to deal with because not only do they need removal, but they need graveyard clearing. And that's two things you basically had to basically waste 2 cards just to get rid of it. And for 1 card versus 2, we all know who's going to win, Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath. So yeah, I really think Uro just basically stomps the living hell out of Primeval Titan. I mean, to be fair though, he's an Elder Giant. I mean, this fool does not compare to the awesomeness power of Uro. And yeah, that's why I think Uro wins. So anyways, guys, do you have a different winner? Do you want Primeval Titan to win instead? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Maybe Primeval Titan can win and still Uro's churros? You never know. So anyways, guys, I will also be having a poll for the next card v card. So please vote for whatever card you want. In fact, I'll probably put I'll leave a link in the beginning of the video to vote on what you guys want to see next. And hey, we'll do a old-fashioned brawl here. Yeah. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day or night. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Bye and peace.